Okay, so picking back up with the PopPop demo. So with the last video, we did UV unwrapping, and so I'm going to go ahead and take a look. I thought I had the video already recorded, but I don't see it, so I'm just going to go and do a new video. And so in this video, we'll be covering doing some basic texture mapping and setting up the scene for render. So let me double check here. We should have UV set up, hopefully. Yeah, looks like we got some UVs here. These UVs will be a little bit different than the ones that we have in the previous video. It's just a different way of unwrapping. There's a little bit more of a seam on these. So what we could do is we could maybe split these apart, or just honestly just continue forward and work with these however we need to. Doesn't really matter too much, but let's just, for the sake of continuity, let's go ahead and make this look a little bit closer to what you guys are used to, at least from the other video. Let's go ahead and cut. Just move that. Move that. I'm going to go ahead and seam up one of these edges. So we're going to go ahead and go to cut and sew. So actually, let's do stitch. So we'll stitch it together. Sew tool. Okay. I'm just going to relay this out real quick. Unfold. Unfold. I don't like how that unfolded. That was weird. Let's try to do an optimize. Does not seem to enjoy that. Seems to be having some weird issues, and it really wants to unfold that. So, all right, I'm not sure what's going on with the computer. It's acting kind of funky. Let's just go and cut this back apart. But either way, what I'm going to be doing is basically just take this piece and this piece. These two are going to be stitched together. And I just need these to be completely together, and that's really it. So stitch looks good. And we're just going to go and scale this up so I can get a little bit more pixel space for them. Okay. And these aren't really going to have much of a texture to them. So I'm just going to leave them right here. I'm going to take the inside of the bottles right here. Just going to drop them down right there so nothing's really overlapping. But the important thing is having this one right here kind of nice and neatly laid out. I could probably lay it out just a little bit better. Actually, I'm going to align the top row of UVs. Line to the top. And let's do so everything's nice and neat. It'll make it a lot easier in Photoshop. Into the bottom. And then we're going to get this UV. Trying to get some more. Okay. Just line those up as well. You can probably tell this thing to go ahead and kind of gridify itself. So go over to straighten UVs. Should try to straighten a little bit. Go to straighten shell. UV shell, grab that, straighten shell. It really wants us to do. Okay. All right. Wants us to grab the UVs before we actually do it. Okay, let's seem to do it. All right. I'm just going to kind of manually straighten some of these. Okay, that should be good. And then I'm going to turn on checkerboard, make sure everything looks nice and neat. All right, looks good. I'm happy with that. Okay. All right, so probably wondering, so I have these UVs, they're not the same as these UVs. So we go back and take a look at this one. These are going to be the old set of UVs. So what could I do? Easy way to do it, just delete and just copy and paste or duplicate the model, since it's literally just a model and we're just moving it over. But if it's a little more complicated than that, if for whatever reason you have like a rig attached to it or something, or you have some sort of history that keeps, or maybe animation I should say, attached to the model that you need to transfer UVs to, deleting and duplicating may not be the option for you. So we can't actually do a transfer UVs. It's a little tricky, but what you do is you grab your source and your destination, and we're actually going to go under, I believe it's modify transfer attributes. Maybe it's actually mesh. I'll take a look for a second. It's been a second since I've done this. Mesh tools, Windows, display. Should be transfer attributes is what I'm looking for. There it is. It's under mesh. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take transfer attributes. You'll leave the settings pretty much as you find them. You want to make sure that sample space is set to world. I'm pretty sure we have to set that to UV. Since we are going to be transferring UV, we're not doing any mirroring, we're not doing flipping. And click transfer. Okay, let's back up real quick because that did not work. So we're going to do source, destination, mesh, transfer attributes. It actually might be a component. There we go. It is component. Okay. You would think it'd be UV. It always trips me up when I do it, but yeah, you think it'd be UV, but I guess it's component. So anyway, there you go. So you can duplicate it or transfer it that way. Hit G and grab your source and grab your destination, hit G, just redo it. So should be good. Okay, I guess these were never UV'd. Okay, UV them real quick. I'm gonna do a Z, no Y-axis. There you go. I'm gonna grab an edge real quick, cut it, and unfold it. Cut. Let's turn off that checkerboard. That gets annoying. Fold. There's something going on with the system. It's not unfolding properly. I'm gonna reset all my settings for the toolkit. Unfold. That's not working properly. It's not working properly either. Why is it not working? All right, let me try to figure this out. So I need to unfold. So if I go under settings, let's reset. I'm going to pin my border real quick and apply it. Yeah, it's basically giving me what I want. So that'll work. Pinning the border just means it doesn't allow the border to move. That's all it is. Okay. All right, so this is the inside of the cap. I'm not worried with this being any smaller than the top of the cap. I really just want the top of the cap to be to have the most pixel space, essentially. Okay. So next thing I'm do is we need to export out these UV layouts as a image that we can work with inside of Photoshop. So I'm going to go ahead and go to, let's see. Should be export. Yeah, UV snapshot. There we go, right here. Make sure you have your stuff selected, UV snapshot. Make sure you have your project set properly. And then it's going to go into the images folder in your project. So I'm just going to name it cap UV and click apply. And then this one right here. Oh yeah, we do not want this to be a IFF file. We want something a little bit nicer. So let's do TIFF. Sorry, IFF's not going to work for us. We need something a little bit better, or a little bit different that will actually work in Photoshop. So let's go to apply. All right, there we go. Should put out that image properly now. Let's do this one. So I'm going to go and go to browse. We're going to give it a new name. Bottle UV layout. And actually, to be honest, since we do need all of our photoshopping is going to be going in here. To be real honest, we probably need the bottle itself to be a little bit smaller, so we can actually have a little more pixel space dedicated for the labels. So I'm going to scale this up. I do want this to fit on the UV space. So I know I sewed this together, but kind of in hindsight, if we want more pixel space, we may have to cut this again, which is what we're going to do real quick. So I'm just going to cut it. So we'll just go ahead and do one right here. We'll scale just to fit inside this UV space. And the reason why I'm trying to fit it inside of this space is because basically if it goes outside of the UV space, you'll have it basically wrapping back around onto the other side of the texture. So basically just imagine like this is just continuously copying the same texture infinitely in any direction you go in. So that's the reason why it needs to fit, excuse me, in the 0 to 1 space right there. Just a little bit bigger. Okay, that'll work. All right, grab all this, apply, and there we go. So we have a UV layout for that. Okay. Let's go ahead and save. And open up Photoshop. The box UV is going to be very, very similar to this. A lot of the box is just projection, just kind of picking out the pieces and laying them out as flat as you can. Just FYI, it just takes a little while because there's a few more pieces to this thing than there were the bottles, but it's the same exact concept. Just cutting it up, making it as easy as for you as it can be in Photoshop. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up one of our UV layout images. And I need to double check where my where this was going into. 19 spring 2020. Okay. Okay. So we got the cap and the bottle UV layout. So let's just go and open up the bottle right now, and then we can open the cap in a second. All right, so there you go. Kind of hard to see. Just going to add in a new layer. And we're going to do white. It's going to be a background. There you go. So that's what we see. So for this soda, we're just going to go and start making the label. I think I was calling it like Diet Betty or something. It was like the pun for diabetes. So we'll just go ahead and start that off. So for the first bit, I'm actually, you'll notice that I put the UV layout on the top layer. I'm not ever going to actually paint on this one. So just make sure you realize that this is not something for you to paint on top of, okay? So do not paint on the UV layer. You also need to make sure you remember to turn it off when you are setting up your, or about to export out your render, okay? Which I just literally just painted on that. Let's see, don't. All right, there we go. So now we can actually see what we're painting on. Yeah, so it makes it easier for us. And it's not a big deal that we're painting on this portion where the bottle is. There's not really going to be any color on the bottle unless we choose to put some on, which we might actually. Might choose to make the bottle a little colorful. But we don't really want to make sure we're not painting on areas we don't need to. So there we go. All right, do a new one. And maybe we can do maybe like a stripe or something that goes through it. So maybe we'll do maybe like a white stripe. Not necessarily what I was thinking. Maybe just a rectangle. So something like that. Maybe make it pink actually. And so you got to take that and put it wherever you want. And put a few of these in here. You know, notice I'm kind of staying away from putting any on the border right here. The reason why is we don't want to really signify that there's a seam there, especially since we have two seams. So we want to kind of be careful and not have seams popping up. Because if you put maybe a pink stripe here and there's not one showing up here, then it's going to look really kind of funky and look obvious that we have a artificial seam there. So I've got a little decoration there for the stripe. Maybe we'll do some text. And Betty. Go and put that in a white. Make that a lot bigger. Yeah, let's pick out some fonts for this. Kind of like some of those. Let's see what else we got. Kind of dig that. That's kind of old and I don't know. I feel like it works with the name Betty. 220. Just did something. I need to go back to my undos. Where did it go? Let's get out of the type tool. I think it's in trouble. All right. So we'll just go ahead and put this smack dab in the middle of the label. Make it as big as we need. There we go. And then we could do a maybe like a white warning label or something on the back, or maybe like a nutrition label. Take that down quite a bit. Sure we can actually so put that in a font that maybe works a little bit better for nutritional facts. So you'll see here running into an issue with some text that's getting kind of small, and it's actually kind of hard to read because it's getting a little pixelated. Now, if we save out this image at this scale, it is going to stay like that. It is not going to be crisp. What we're going to have to do is actually change the size of our canvas in order to fix this. So shouldn't be a huge issue to fix this, but this is a consequence of actually having a texture that's too small. I think the image we rendered out, or the image that we took out of Maya, was like 2000 by 2000. That's actually going to be a bit small for some of these nutritional facts, or for some of these texture maps. I'm doing that. Let's change that text. I'm just kind of writing in some weird stuff. I don't know why it has 34 grams of potassium, but it does. I'm just putting some stuff here, so you get the idea of placement and kind of how it's going to work. All right, so I'm just going to go and grab all this. That's a little small, so let's go and bring it in. Now, those of you that went through FDA, you know, or should know, the difference between a rasterized image and a vector image. So in Photoshop, text is vector, meaning that we can scale it up and down, and it's not going to necessarily degrade. So we kind of mess with it, you know, as we need to. But it is going to display accurately once it's actually like saved out as a Photoshop or a JPEG or TIFF or something like that. So this will allow us to actually blow up the image a little bit and kind of fix some of these issues we're having. Let's bring this up a little bit. So it looks a little bit better now. It's not as kind of oddly placed. All right. So again, talking about the image size, I'm going to go under image, canvas size. Let's take a look at what it actually is set to. Pixels 2048 by 2048. So I'm going to change this to an 8K image, which means it's going to have a lot more pixels and a lot more space to carry pixel information. So that's going to be 8192. And then we need to make sure it's square. So it's going to be 8192. So 8192 by 8192. And so that's going to make the canvas quite a bit larger. Let's see right there. You go ahead and grab. Should be able to group all of these together. And I'm going to take that group, and then I'm just going to go ahead and scale it up. Just like that. As long as we scale it up uniformly and have all the edges kind of touching the borders and stuff, we should be good. So it's going to resave it as the new size. We have a little bare spot down here. You can see where that's kind of creeping through. Move it down 2 pixels, and I think we're good. Okay, cool. So we're just going to go and call this done. I'm going to go ahead and save this image out. I'm going to turn off my UV layer. I'm going to save this as a new image. This is going to be my color map. And this is going to go under my source images folder. Okay. I'm going to call it bottle color map. Okay. I'm going to save as TIFF. Click save. All right. Don't want any image compression. Just go ahead and save it. Yeah, I'm fine with that. TIFFs are good. They are not compressed images, and then they also keep your layers. So if you ever need to open them up and edit them, they're really fantastic to go back and work with. Photoshop documents don't typically work very well with RenderMan. You kind of have to finagle them a little bit, so it's a little more work. Okay, so just went ahead and save that. Let's go ahead and open up Photoshop again. And I'm going to open up that bottle cap snapshot. No, that's the wrong one. Let's do images. Cap view. There we go. Give it a second to open up. There we go. layer. I'm gonna drop that new layer below the this other layer, the one with the actual UV on it. Again, do a white layer so I can see this information. And then I'm going to go do another layer. And we're just going to choose the same red color because it's the same thing. Same branding here. And then I'm going to do my text. And yeah, we'll just use I'll script again. Be white. Okay. Okay, so that looks good. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm gonna throw a shape actually in there. Let's do an ellipse. Make it pink. All right, cool. So we'll do that. Maybe do like a little fade or something where it kind of fades out a little bit. Let's get all of this out here. Okay. And then actually the way I'm going to do that is go into the gradient. I'm going to do a circular gradient. And let's see if that'll work. Maybe not that far. Okay, just something like that. Just to kind of give it a little bit different color. Cool. All right, turn that off. There we go. Diet Betty. I'm going to save this. Okay. Cap color. No. Save as. And we're good to go. Don't need to compress it. So we should be able to work now. All right. So let's go ahead and start applying these materials. Okay, so I just pulled this guy out so we can get a better look at him. I'm going to go ahead and put a new material on the cap right here. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to call it cap PXR. I'm going to go into color, and I'm going to go to render man. I'm going to go under pattern. I'm going to look for PXR texture. That's the node we're going to be using to attach a texture to an actual file texture to your material. Okay. I'm going to go to file, and everything should be under your scene source images. And so since I made the cap right here, you'll see this. I'm going to click that, click open. and see if that applies. It should have. All right. So I'm going to go and grab these faces. We're going to do another material, and this is going to be the label. And that is going to go with pattern, again, another texture material. Come on, give me that. For some reason it does not want to attach. Okay. One thing I want to do is just go ahead and delete all my type history. Sometimes that gets kind of funky. It says it's not showing material. All right, let's suss it out. So what I'm doing is I'm looking in the attribute editor right here. There should be a PXR. I know there's a PXR attached to this. It's not showing it for some reason. So I'm going to go in the Hypershade, which is where basically all the materials and shaders assigned in the scene are sitting. Delete my unused, and it's going to be in here, label right there. So we know it's actually attached to it. So, all right, I'm just going to click it. Yeah, so it's definitely there. Okay, so it's got the PXR even attached to it as well, which is great. So let's go ahead and just put that label in. There we go, color map. Okay. Let's just take a render and just see what this looks like real quick. Okay. Okay. So what's happening here is it hasn't had a chance to convert the texture over to an actual texture file that RenderMan can use. So what we're going to do is we're going to re-render this, and it is going to basically show us the textures applied. Let's try it again. There we go. So there's our Diet Betty. There is the bottle cap right there. And it looks like it already had a pre-existing glass on it, but let's talk about how to create that glass, okay? Okay, so I'm just gonna grab these phases, hold down Shift. It's just gonna invert the selection. So I just selected everything else. So I'm gonna go add a new material. Let's call it glass. And so let's go ahead and start creating the glass, okay? Maybe a good way to do this is if we change the renderer from viewport to RenderMan, so we can kind of see what we have here. You also notice we do have a couple lights already set up in here, so that's what I'm working with. I'm going to go and change the color to black. For glass, you want to make sure your color is set to black. And then you're going to go down to glass. And go to refraction gain, I'm sorry. I want to turn that all the way up. You see how it starts getting real translucent? We go around, look behind it. See how we're seeing stuff that actually go through it? That's pretty cool, right? And then I'm going to go and sorry, I got to go back through this. It's acting funky. I got to like pull my preferences or something and delete them. I'm going to go to my reflection gain and go ahead and turn out my reflection so you now see how it's actually reflecting a lot more. See that? Pull it down. Basically no reflection, it's translucent. But now we're actually getting something that looks a lot more like glass. If it's something like tinted glass, we can actually change the tint. See how it looks like it's kind of like a smoky glass, or maybe like beer bottles are like green or brown sometimes. Kind of get something like that. So that's kind of interesting. Okay, but let's go back to just white. That's just going to be just normal clear glass. Okay. Roughness is going to be how specular, how clear you want the specularity to be. So roughness is going to be, roughness of 0 is going to be like super duper reflective. You're going to be able to see, all the objects in the reflection. Like you see the purple, the green, the box right here, you can see all that stuff. If you bring that roughness up, it's going to look more and more frosted. So you may, if you have like a cold bottle, it may be a bit frostier. So you may have a roughness that goes a little bit higher than, say, a clear bottle. So yeah, something to think about. So that's basically how you would handle that. All right. So what about the liquid? Okay. So this is going to be similar to this will be similar to your glass, but it's going to be a little bit thicker. So we'll go over here, Pixar Surface 9. I'll change that to liquid PXR. And we'll go ahead and give it, let's do a color. We're kind of playing around with like bright, with some pinks and stuff in the materials. Let's do maybe like a pinky orange. So maybe something like that. I think maybe it's like Diet Betty's, maybe like super cinnamony. The liquid itself, we can do a little bit of a reflectiveness to it. Maybe pull down some roughness since it's going to be just like more like a liquid. If it was something thicker, maybe like milk, maybe the specularity wouldn't be as clear. We do want light to kind of transmit through it. So maybe we want to do maybe some subsurface. And then right here, we have color and mean free path color. So the color is going to be your main color. So that'll be that color, okay? Mean free path color, I mean, that's gonna be the color that the light turns it on like the backside. So if we do something kind of crazy like a green, you'll see if we go on the other side of the light, we'll start to get some of that green in there. And then we can turn up the distance. And that's going to be how far the light actually can transmit into it. Let me change this to white. We should be able to see it a little bit more. So changing this to white, you'll see a little bit more of that green color kind of coming in. Like right there. So let's go back to that red, and maybe we'll change that to maybe more of a purple, so kind of analogous color. Okay. Go ahead and move. Oh yeah, we need to do glass, that's right. So this needs to have some translucency to it. So let's go back to material. We'll go to glass. And it doesn't necessarily need to be shiny, but we do need to have it to be translucent of some sort. What I do is pull that colored in a little bit. So maybe it's a little bit thinner where I actually can kind of like see through it a little bit. I'm pulling down the gain on the diffuse just so it's a little bit more translucent. I'm kind of honestly thinking this may be like a fruity, cinnamony, almost maybe like a peach knee-high or something like that. If you guys ever had any of those. All right, glass. Don't think we need reflection on here again. We've already got reflection. Maybe do a little bit of a refraction roughness. And let's go ahead and take both of these and put that in there. See how that looks. That looks pretty good. So there you go. That's how we do glass, texture placement, UV export, and re-importing the materials back in. Lastly, we can do kind of a shiny metal for the cap. So I'm going to go and do a bit of a face color, bring that up. I'm going to do the roughness, kind of bring that up a little bit too. I'm thinking this is like enameled metal. And I'm going to drop down to advanced. You'll see where it says anastrophe here. This is going to be referring to the way that the reflection or the highlight hits the surface of the material. And so I'm going to actually change it. And you'll see we can actually kind of change the way that highlight, how it actually goes in a different direction. The goal is to kind of hit something that looks a little bit more like a metallic-y, maybe like a brushed metal. So I'm going to actually bring that face color up. Let me bring that roughness down so it kind of sharpens it a little bit. You'll see it kind of just changes it just a tiny bit. But the idea is to try to get something that looks a little bit more like metal. Okay. And then we can also add like a rough specular if we want to. Okay. All right. So in this project, we're also going to be doing bump mapping and specular mapping. So jump over to that video and I'll show you how to apply a bump map and a specular map. That's going to be with the tile floor and not necessarily a wood floor that's assigned in this one, but it's the same type of idea, essentially. So take a look at that. All right, and that'll conclude this one. All right, cool. Actually, one last thing